Hello and welcome to the MarinMap FEMA Flood Map application how-to video. In today's video, I'm going to walk through some of the application's functionality and show how it can be used to identify some layers like FEMA flood zones, county policy layers, and hydrology layers, among many other, to do some quick analysis in areas of concern. To begin, when you open up the application to begin with, you're going to be met with this how-to splash screen. This splash screen walks through some of the functionality of the application, whether that just be some search information, query information, and then general pop-up information on accessing pop-ups on the application, and then talks about some of the other widgets available to you. And once you exit out of this menu, it can be found via a button link in the application that I will get to later in the how-to video. To begin, I'll just show some of the default tools that come with the application out of the box. So I'll work my way around the map and show you some of those tools, and then after that I'll walk through the search bar, and then I will walk through all of these tools that are listed up here within the header menu at the top right hand side of the application. So for basic tools, we've got a zoom in and a zoom out button. That is the plus and minus button that can be found up at the top left-hand side of the application here. The plus button, as you would imagine, zooms you into the map. The minus button zooms you back out. You can also accomplish the same thing by just scrolling with your mouse wheel on your mouse. Next, we've got the default map view button, which is this button with the little home icon. And to get back out to this default view that we're currently looking at, you can click this default map extent button. And I'll show you an example. If I'm zoomed into the map here and I've done some analysis on a specific area and I want to get out to that default map view, I can just click that button and it will automatically zoom me back out to that view that loads when the application loads. The next tool I'd like to talk about is the Find My Location button. Now this isn't going to be very used on the desktop side of things, but if you are accessing this application via a mobile device, this Find My Location button can be used to bring you to your live location on the map. So if you're somewhere in Marin County and you want to view FEMA flood zone layers in the area that you're currently in, you can tap this Find My Location button and the application will zoom automatically to your live location on the map and show you as a little blue dot on the map. Next, I would like to walk through the search bar. Within the search bar, we've got the ability to search by address or property ID. By default, it's going to be checked to all, which means you can type in either a property ID number or an address, and it will give you results for either of those. Or if you just want to search by the one, you can deselect the all button here, and you can select either search by address or search by property ID to make that more of a focused search. I'll go ahead and reselect both, and I'm going to just type in an address that I know has some interesting flood information, and that is 456 Alameda. And once I enter in my search information in the search bar and it's selected within the search results, it will zoom me directly to that tax parcel that I have searched for. And once you've zoomed directly to that tax parcel, you can see a pop-up comes up here with some tax parcel information. It's got general tax parcel information like parcel ID, address, land use, zoning, things like that. And then it does have flood zone information here too. So you can see it is in the flood zone of X. Flood insurance required is set to no. And then it gives you a little bit of a description about the flood zone that tax parcel lies within. So this is an X. So we're getting some information about flood zone X here in the flood zone description. You can continue to scroll down in the pop-up to see a little bit more information about the assessor disclaimer. but the majority of that important information is right at the top of the pop-up here. And one thing to note with these pop-ups is that they can be docked too. So if you come up to this button at the very top of the pop-up and select Dock, that will dock the pop-up at the top right-hand side of the application. And you can see once you've docked your pop-up, it's a lot larger, so you can see most of everything that's included with that pop-up once it's been docked. And then you can undock that pop-up just by selecting that same button, and it will bring you back to that initial location. So I will close out of my pop-up there. And next I'll start going through these tools that are available within the header of the application. The first of which is the map legend. So I'll click in there. The map legend is a very basic tool. It shows you a symbol representation of all of the layers that are turned on currently on the map. So if a layer is active on the map, it's going to be shown and show you what the symbol of that layer is in the map legend here. So I can scroll down and we can see there's quite a few default layers turned on when the application loads. And to see what you're looking at on the map here, you can just scroll down in the legend and see what those symbols denote on the map. So I'll close that. And I'll work my way down here, and the next tool I'll talk about is the map layers. Now this is kind of the nerve center of the application. This is where all of the layers that are shown on the application can be turned on and off. So if I deselect tax parcels here, you can see that that tax parcels layer has disappeared from the map. If I turn it back on, those tax parcels are showing again. One other thing I'll note with the map layers is that there are several group layers within the map layer. So for example, I will show the tax parcels group. Now the tax parcels layer is shown within the tax parcels group, but there are also condominium common areas, mobile home pad, dead parcels, marine agricultural land trust parcels, and agricultural contract parcels. So these are where several layers that have kind of a relationship can be stored within a group. So that's one thing to note. If you want to turn an entire group off, you can select that button that controls the group, or you can turn them on and off within the group here as well. So one thing to be aware of is that some of the layers you might be looking for might be hiding within some of these groups. And to avoid any confusion, we have included some search functionality within the map layers widget. So as an example here, I'm just going to search for a layer I know is in a group, which is ocean and bay. So if I wanted to find a specific layer, I do have the ability to search for it, and it will filter out those map layer options based on my search criteria. And once I remove that search, it will send me back to the default view where I can see all available map layers. One other neat piece of functionality here is in the 3-dot ellipsis menu in the map layers, and that is turning on and turning up and down transparency of layers. So it's very easy when you turn a lot of layers on in an application for it to be a little bit busy on the map. So one thing we've added to kind of curtail some of that busyness is the ability to change the transparency of layers. So as you can see with these FEMA flood layers that are kind of that sideways striped layer on the application currently, I can change the transparency of those layers just by dragging this slider menu. And if I take it all the way up to 100%, that layer is invisible. And if I bring it back down, you can see it's getting thicker, and then back to 0% at its default. So one thing to be aware of if the map gets a little bit busy is that you can always change the transparency of layers to kind of drill down and see exactly what you're looking to see within the application. All right, for the next tool, I'm going to clear my search, and I'm going to go back out to my default extent. So the next tool I'll talk about is the Attribute Queries tool. And once I've selected that Attribute Queries tool, you'll see there are 6 pre-configured queries here. The first three, we're going to filter out LOMC records by either file name, city name, or property ID. And then we also have the ability to query out tax parcels by property ID and street address, or we can zoom directly to specific cities and specific communities, and I'll walk through some of those queries right now. First example here is the LOMC by file name, and we can search either via the file name that's attributed to that LOMC, as well as if that LOMC is set to no as valid or yes in the valid field. So to search by file name, we'll just enter in a file name, and that is one that I know there is a record for. So I've typed that in, and I'll just go ahead and click apply. And that's going to zoom me directly to that letter of map change record. And it's going to show me the information tied to that letter of map change. And then it's also going to give me a link out to that record, the FEMA record for that letter of map change. So you can search directly by the file name if you're aware of what that file name is that you're looking for by utilizing this LOMC by file name. I'll go back out here to LOMC by city name. And in this query, if we don't know the exact file name that we're looking for, we can filter them by city name. So just for my example here, I'll choose Belvedere from the drop-down menu in the city field of that LOMC layer, and that will zoom me to all LOMC records within the city of Belvedere. And as you can see here in my query results, I've got 7 results for city of Belvedere. So if I want to bop around and look at these, I can just select them from that results list, and it will zoom me directly to that returned query result. I'll just go down the list here and work through that. And as you can see, again, we've got some information tied to that letter of map change, and then the link out to the FEMA documentation tied to that LOMC record. So I'll go ahead and clear those results. And then I'll hit reset here to remove my city filter on the query. And now I've cleared that query. And then my last LOMC query is the query by property ID. So if I have a specific property ID that I need to search for and see if there is a letter of map change for that property ID, I can utilize this attribute query for that. So I've got an example here where I know there is a record. So type in that property ID, and then I just click apply. And that will bring me directly to that letter of map change for that property ID. So we've got 3 main ways to search for LOMC records here. And then I will walk through the rest of the queries that are designed just to find other attributes that are shown on the map. So here we've got a tax parcels query. This is just for identifying and zooming the map to a specific property ID. So I'll just use this example here for the property ID query, and I'm going to click apply. And again, that's going to just zoom me directly to that tax parcel. I'll click the little caret there, and then I will see the tax parcel pop-up information for that specific tax parcel. And to clear those those query results, I'll just click clear results. Now, one thing to note with this query is that it is a contains search here. So if I only know a portion of the property ID number here, I can run this search. I'll go ahead and click apply. And now we're going to see all tax parcels that contain these numbers within the property ID. So I'll rerun that query, and you'll see there are 14 tax parcels that start with 179-270. So that contained search can be pretty helpful if you need to zoom to a set of parcels like the one we're looking at now, or if you're not certain on the entirety of the tax parcel ID that you're searching. This can be a way to search a portion of it and then look through the results to get to that tax parcel. Go ahead and clear those results and then click reset. And then lastly, we've just got city and community attribute queries. This will get us to a specific city or a specific community based on what we select from the drop-down. So for my city example, I will select Fairfax and click apply, and that will bring me directly to the city of Fairfax. So if I need to get to a specific area on the map that is controlled by a city boundary, this is a very quick way to do that. Go ahead and clear those results, and then I'll do the same thing with community. I'll choose Alto, click apply, and that's going to zoom me directly to that community. Again, I'll clear those results by clicking this trash can icon, and then I'll reset my query to remove my query search. And then to get back out to that main list of queries, I can just click this back button, and then I've got them all available to me here again. The next tool I would like to discuss is the Basemap gallery. I'll go ahead and click into that. And this is a very basic tool. This just controls the base map that is shown on the map behind all of these map layers that we're viewing. It's going to be a little bit difficult to see with all these map layers that are turned on, excuse me. But if I go ahead and select let's say one of these aerial imagery layers, you'll see the background is going to change here behind all of these layers that are shown on the map currently. So if you want to see aerial imagery, you can select those. There's also some other default base maps that are available out of the box here that you can select to have kind of a different reference point behind that data that you're seeing on the map if need be. And then one thing to note is that the default base map that loads when the application loads is this light gray canvas base map. So I'll go ahead and choose that. That's probably the easiest base map to see all of the map layers on. So sometimes you might have to go between aerial imagery and the light gray canvas just to see something specific on the map. But that's all available to you through the Basemap Gallery tool. Next, I'd like to go over the measurement tool. The measurement tool allows for measurements of distance and area. Once you select into the measurement tool, you'll see there's two buttons up here at the top of the tool. One is for measuring distance, so I'll go ahead and show that. Once I've selected that, it's going to tell me to start to measure by clicking in the map to place your first point. So let's just say I want to come in here and I want to measure the distance of the northern portion of my tax parcel. I'll go ahead and click on the map. I'm going to clear that and restart. The map was still loading. So again, I'll click New Measurement. I'll click right here on this vertex of my tax parcel, and then I'll just kind of hover. And you can see when I'm measuring a distance, it does snap to actual map layers, which can be pretty helpful. So you can see this dot showed up at that vertex on the northeast corner of my tax parcel. So I'll just double click to finish my measurement. And now my distance measurement has completed. So we can see that the northern portion of this tax parcel is 58.87 feet. Now the default measurement unit is going to be set to imperial, which means at a smaller measurement, it's going to default to feet. And then once that measurement gets larger, it will change to miles for the measurement. I can also do that manually by just selecting the unit drop down here. So if I want to see how many yards this measurement is, I can change that to yards, and you can see the measurement has changed on the map and here in the tool. Go ahead and clear that measurement. Another thing I will show is you can create multi-vertex distance measurements. So if I wanted to measure the north and eastern portion of my tax parcel here, I can start at the northwest corner, drag this up to the northeast corner, and then drag the measurement tool down to this southeast corner. And now I'm getting a total distance measurement. So if you have measurements that are multiple vertices, you can just drop a click for each one of those vertices and then double click to end your measurement of that distance. Next, I'll walk through creating an area measurement. And to begin that, I'll just click into this Measure Area button here within the Measurement tool. And this works just the same as the distance measurement. I'll just click somewhere on the map to get started and then click along my area of interest. Let's say here I'm going to want to measure the area of both of these two tax parcels. I'll just start up here in this corner. I'll click once to begin my measurement. I'll click here at that parcel corner. I'll click again at that parcel corner. I'll click at that one, that corner, and then I'll double click to complete my area measurement here. So again, that measurement unit is going to default to imperial, which means that is going to default to square feet in an area that I believe it's under 100,000 square feet. It will default to square feet for the area measurement, and anything above 100,000 square feet will then change to acres. But again, if I don't want to see the square feet of my measurement by default, I can select this unit dropdown and change this to anything I want. So I'll change that to acres, and you can see these two parcels are about 1/4 of an acre. And then it will also show me my measurement, the perimeter of my area measurement here as well within the tool. So just another added function there in the measurement tool. And if I wanted to start a new measurement, I could click New Measurement and it will allow me to start measuring another area, or I could have clicked Clear there to completely leave this area measurement. So go ahead and close out of the measurement tool, and next we will talk about the bookmarks. So the bookmark tool is a predetermined set of bookmarks that can allow you to maneuver the map very quickly. So we've got a home bookmark here to bring us back out to that default map extent. Or if we want to cruise around the map and get to a specific area a little bit more quickly, we can select that area. I'll go to Sausalito as my example, and that will zoom us directly to that predetermined map bookmark. So we've got several bookmarks here that are set up, and they can be used to get directly to an area of concern very quickly without having to scroll there or try to find it on the map. The next tool that I will show, I'm going to zoom in for this demo, this part of the demo. The next tool that I'm going to show is the Draw tool. And the Draw tool is a tool that is mainly used in conjunction with the Print tool, which I will go through next. But this is just a quick markup tool where you can draw points, lines, polygons, and text on the map. So it's usually utilized with the Print widget to mark up the map and then print out that drawing to share an area of concern or a spot that you want to add a text to the map and then print it out and give it to someone for a note or something like that. One thing to note with these drawings is that they do not carry over between having this application open. So it's kind of a one-time use thing. If you have this application open and you make a drawing and then you close out of the application and come back into that area that you created that drawing is not going to be there again. It's only available within your current application view. So I'll just click through this tool. As you can see, I can select a point. We've got different point default templates that I can choose to add to the map. We can select the line. We've got pre-configured line colors, solid colors, dashed lines, different colors there. You can update the thickness, and you can update whether or not it's a dashed line. You can update the transparency. And then same thing with the polygons here. You've got pre-configured templates here. You can change the thickness of the border and then change the transparency of the fill here with this transparency slider menu. And then we do have the ability to draw a rectangle and draw a circle, and we can also draw text. So you can enter in your text here in the content box, and then you can update the font. So I'll make this a nice bold font. You can update the font size, the font color, but a few other customizable things here within the tool. I'll go ahead and just add this for my printout, and then I'll walk through creating a polygon. I'm going to just choose this green polygon here because that'll be nice and easy to see. And I'm just going to create a little test polygon. This works pretty similarly to the area measurement. You just click on the map to create a vertex, and then you double click to finish your drawing. So here's my little area. Let's say this is my parcel of concern, and I wanted to drop some text on that to explain why it's a parcel of concern, and then a polygon on there to show it. And then we'll kind of center on that. And then with that, I will utilize the print tool next to show you how that can be used kind of in conjunction with that draw tool. So I'll click into print here, and in the print menu, we're going to have several templates available to us. A3 is the paper size. And then you can see we've got several different paper sizes, and then we've got landscape and portrait. So that's just going to control whether or not we're seeing a vertical printout or a horizontal printout with that layout. And then we do have the ability to print the map only as well. I'll go ahead and leave this on the A3 landscape, the default there. And I'll change the title to PWA test. And then if I come in and select this expand button within the advanced section of the print, we can control a few other things. I'll keep this as the current map extent. That's just going to show my current map extent here because I've got that selected. Author, I'll say test print. And same thing for the copyright. Now the author and the copyright will show up in the bottom right hand side of the printout. So author is best to put whoever's name it is that's printing this printout, and then copyright is where you can just add any information that you want to include with the printout to maybe explain why you're printing out this area. I'll include the legend and the north arrow. I'll keep my scale bar unit as miles and the print quality to 96. And I'll go ahead and click print. And once you've clicked print, you can see there's a results tab here within the print tool. So I'll click in there, and my print is loading currently. You can see we've got the spinning wheel. And as soon as that spinning wheel is done, we can then click into that print, which it looks like it's just resolved. So I'll click into that print. And here we've got a pretty basic printout. We've got our title up here at the top. We've got that drawing that came over with us. And then we've got the map legend that I selected, the scale bar there. And then here we've got that author information at the bottom right hand side, and then that copyright information below that. So a pretty basic print tool, but it can be very helpful if you need to share an area quickly with someone in the office, or embed this into an email and show it to someone outside of your organization or anything like that. And this did just open in a new tab in the browser that I'm viewing the application in. But you can right click on this tab and you can save the image as whatever format you'd like. If you need to save it out as a TIFF or a PDF or anything like that, when you save that image out, you can select which format you would like to save it in. So just close that tab to get back to the application. And once I've closed out, it'll bring me back to that exact area that I left. So I'll close out of the print tool and keep working my way down the header menu tools. Next, we've got the share button. Now the share will default us to a short link here. So if you need to send a quick short link to get someone to this application, you can copy this by just selecting this copy button. You can also remove that short link and get the full link out to the application if you need to see kind of the meat and potatoes of that link. You also have the ability to embed this directly by clicking the embed button. You can create a QR code. You can share this directly via email with this button and then share it via socials with Facebook, X, Pinterest, or LinkedIn. Next, I will talk about the data table. So I'm going to click into that data table icon there at the very top right. And here is where we can view all of the layers that are available within this application in a table fashion. So it's going to default this to the tax parcels layer since that's probably the most commonly accessed layers attribute table. But to view any other layers, you can select this drop-down menu and you can find whatever layer you're looking for within the drop-down there. Now, one neat thing about the attribute table is that it is configured to zoom directly to a selection. So if I've selected a property ID that I'm interested in, and then I exit out, it will have zoomed me directly to that tax parcel on the map. And then I can deselect that table record just by selecting it again, and now you can see it is no longer selected. Once I have a record within the table selected, you can see this Show Selection button will be activated. If I select that button, then it's going to update this attribute table to only show my selected record within that attribute table. And then I can get back to showing all records along with my selected record just by selecting that Select All. I can also clear my selection by clicking this Clear Selection button. Now you can see that's deselected, and in the map in the background, it's zoomed me back out to that default extent because it's no longer selected. I also have the ability to show and hide columns. So let's say that I only want to see a few select columns in this attribute table. I can turn columns on and off. You can see they're disappearing here as I deselect them, and then I can reselect them and they'll show back up. And you can search for specific fields or columns that you want to hide here within the search menu. And then you can show your selection too. So if I've deselected some of these columns and I click Show Selected, it will show me only those that are selected. And then you can clear your selection by clicking this Clear Selection button. Next, we have some map actions here. The first is to set a filter. So if you want to set a filter on any of these map layers, you can maneuver to that map layer's attribute table and then come up to the Actions button here at the top right of the table and click Set Filter. And the Set Filter allows you to set a filter on any single data field or column that you want. So you can go ahead and select Add, and then you select Clause. And you can see here we've got every single data field within that attribute table. So if I wanted to show all records, all tax parcel records where the zip code is unique to 94901, I can set that up here in my filter, and then I just turn that filter on with this little toggle switch. And now you can see I'm only showing 11,287 parcels because my filter is set to only show those tax parcels within the zip code of 94901. And if I remove that filter, now you can see we're seeing that total number of countywide parcels there. So Gives you a lot of freedom as the end user to filter this data and see what you need to see. And then the other aspect of the actions here within the attribute table is to export to CSV. So if you need any of this data in spreadsheet format to analyze it or just see things in a way that makes more sense to you, you can export it to CSV. One thing to note with the export to CSV is that any filters you set on the data will come along with that export. So if you want to export the entirety of the layer, make sure you do not have any filters set on it. But if you do want to export a filtered view, you can go ahead and set those filters and then export to spreadsheet format. I'll go ahead and leave the download table. And finally, there's one last tool to show about this application, and that is the help menu. And the help menu is basically the same thing that we saw with that splash screen on the how-to section, but we did add a couple of tabs within this help menu to share some important documents and links, and then just some general information about LOMAs. So this how-to section is going to show us that how-to help that was on the splash screen when we first entered the application, and it will also have a download or a button to that data download table that I just walked you through. And then I'll go ahead and select this Documents and Links tab. And this is a tab that has some external links to important locations for property deed searches, parcel map searches, subdivision map searches. That's all out to the Marin County webpage. And then there is a link out to FEMA's website to create a fermet for FEMA purposes, or for LOMA purposes. And then we have some important links below those supporting documents. What is a LOMA application form, and a LOMA application instructions in case you're going to do that from this application. And then lastly, we do have a LOMA info tab, and that just explains a bit about a LOMA. It's got kind of the background information there, and then it does have a link out to a tax roll search on the county's website, and then a staff phone number here, and it gives you some office hours on when you would be able to reach someone at the county assessor. So if there's any questions about the application, you can rely on this how-to page, and then if you need any of those supporting links and documents, you can utilize the Documents and Links tab and the LOMA Info tab within the Help menu. And you can exit the Help menu just by clicking that X. And again, to access that, it's just this information button up here at the very top right of the application. And that's all I have today to walk through this application. I hope you found this useful, and I hope that you find this application useful for looking for flood mapping information and completing any analysis you might like to do. Thank you for your time.